Unbelievable betrayal. My daughter-in-law's shocking wedding day reveal exposed hidden intentions. Emily stood at the front of the church, her heart racing as she meticulously adjusted the satin ribbons draping the pews. Today was supposed to encapsulate a lifetime of dedication. Years spent nurturing her family, carving out a sanctuary for her son Jake and his bride Sarah. Yet a knot of unease tightened in her stomach, each tightening twist feeling heavier than the last. She had envisioned this day as the merging of futures, a beautiful culmination of love and family traditions steeped deeply in their small-town values. But with every tick of the clock, doubt seeped in, gnawing at the edges of her joy. The sun shone brightly through the stained glass windows, casting kaleidoscopic patterns over the family and friends filling the pews. Laughter flowed in the air, but Emily felt disconnected, existing in the space between anticipation and dread as she thought of Sarah's ambitions. The young woman who had breezed into their lives seemed perfect for Jake, while also being the embodiment of Emily's deepest fears, a dreamer. Someone who might one day blur the lines of the life she held sacred. Today would seal their fates. Sarah's intentions had never been clearer, but the thought of separation loomed like a dark cloud. Just as the ceremony reached its emotional peak, Sarah rose from her seat, her face resolute yet clouded by tension. Emily's heart plummeted as she sensed something shifted in the atmosphere. This wasn't just about love. It was about choices that threatened the foundation of what they had built together. "I want to move to the city after today," Sarah declared, her voice breaking the delicate harmony. Gasps rippled through the pews. Emily's breath hitched in her throat. This was it, everything she had feared had manifested before her eyes. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Emily was caught in a whirlwind, a storm of pride fighting against a wave of betrayal. Each word out of Sarah's mouth felt like an echo, reverberating through years of sacrifice and the trust that had been built. Jake sat stunned, his eyes full of confusion, a reflection of Emily's internal chaos. How could Sarah even consider tearing them away from everything they had? It was like she was reaching into Emily's heart and pulling it apart. The wedding vows hung in the balance, suspended with unanswered emotions. Emily's mind raced, each thought colliding with the next. As tension surged between them, Emily struggled to connect to that familiar feeling of family warmth. The ache of potential loss gnawed at her insides. Did this new life mean forsaking their deep-seated traditions? Desperation clawed at her as she confronted her son's promised future, while simultaneously grappling with her fierce desire to shield him from heartbreak. The room grew silent, but the weight of unuttered words hung heavily in the air. Could she muster the courage to confront Sarah? Would her voice resonate in the face of ambition? As the stakes rose, Jake caught between two forces, neither willing to yield. Emily knew this moment would define them all. The wedding hung in uncertainty, a fracture in their lives threatening to become a chasm. Every heartbeat echoed the growing realization that this shocking reveal might not just change the course of one day, but the entire familial landscape. Clarity pierced through Emily's fog of confusion like a long-awaited dawn. She stood rigid, the voices surrounding her fading into an indistinct blur. The extravagant wedding details she had meticulously crafted now felt trivial compared to the seismic shift threatening her family. All the sacrifices, the late-night conversations filled with hopes and dreams, now weighed heavily against this freshly declared ambition. Her instincts, once grounded in nurturing, began to morph into something sharper, more assertive. She felt an unfamiliar sense of urgency coursing through her veins, a call to action rather than passive acceptance. Every decision she had made, every careful step taken within her defined world, suddenly felt vulnerable and questionable. In her pursuit to maintain family tradition, had she inadvertently created an environment stifling enough to push Sarah away? The realization struck hard. It wasn't just Sarah's ambition at play here. It was Emily's own rigidity, her fears entrenched in a world that was changing, whether she wanted it to or not. The idea of separation filled her with dread, Yet the equally terrifying notion that she might lose her son to an inflexible mindset began to transform her resolve from hesitation to determination. As she stood caught in this emotional storm, she remembered the brave mantra she had once shared with Jake during his teenage years. Fear can either anchor you or sail you away. Today, she found herself at a crossroads, contemplating the execution of her own advice. If she respected Jake's desires, perhaps they'd find a path that didn't lead to a devastating divide. Emily turned her gaze toward Sarah, who seemed a mixture of defiance and trepidation. "Why the city, Sarah?" she asked, injecting a calmness into the turmoil swirling around them. "What is it that you believe awaits you there?" Sarah hesitated, glancing nervously at Jake before finding her footing. "I've dreamed of a bigger life, Emily. I want to make my mark, to pursue opportunities that a small town can't offer." Her voice trembled lightly. "It's not that I want to move away from you all, but I need to feel I can achieve something that feels like me." The honesty in Sarah's voice pierced through Emily's heart. Was it really an ambition to be uprooted that she opposed? Or was it the underlying fear that this ambition could unravel her carefully composed home? Emily's thoughts began tumbling into a new clarity. What if she recognized Sarah's aspirations as valid? Could she be the bridge, supporting not just Jake, but Sarah as well? A flow of strategic ideas started forming. Perhaps they could find a compromise, one that allowed Sarah to thrive while still maintaining family ties. The atmosphere in the church seemed to thrum, the once silent congregation now buzzing with curiosity and anxiety. Emily inhaled softly, feeling the weight of all those pairs of eyes staring at her. Did she have the courage to reshape this narrative and allow transformation rather than lament loss? Suddenly, a flicker of belief ignited a determination within her. This was no longer about preserving an old world. It was about adapting and perhaps discovering new facets of herself in the process. The moment called for action, and as the vows lay unspoken, Emily took a resolute step forward, ready to confront the delicate balance of past and future. "Jake," she turned to him, her voice steady. "We need to talk. Maybe we can all find a way to move forward together." But the tension twisted tighter as whispers of dissent began to echo among the onlookers. Not everyone would be accepting, and the future might hinge on this very moment of confrontation. As the gravity of her words hung in the air, Emily realized that the real fight might just be beginning, not from the outside world, but within their very own family dynamics. The fire of unknown consequences loomed ahead, urging her to navigate this turbulent moment with the courage and resilience she had secreted away for far too long. In this moment of revelation and challenge, Emily sensed she might discover not just the strength to evolve, but a path to redefine what family truly meant. As they stood poised on a precipice of change, she felt the anticipation of uncharted waters ahead, all echoing the question: could they collectively rewrite the narrative, or would it fracture beyond repair? The moment hung thick with tension, each gaze like a spotlight on Emily, demanding a resolution. She felt the pulse of palpable anticipation in the air. The wedding plan she had curated so carefully, the ambience she had envisioned, now seemed a distant echo. It was her family dynamics that stood on the verge of fracture, not the wedding altar. "Mom, what are you saying?" Jake's voice cut through the noise, sharp and unsure. He looked at her, confusion etched across his features, a mixture of concern and disbelief. Did her words signify a willingness to let Sarah go, or a desperate attempt to hold on to both children in a world that threatened to splinter them apart? Driven by a sudden clarity, Emily stepped closer to Sarah. "I want to understand what you hope to find in that city. Can you give me more insight?" The change in her tone was like wielding a shield against the negativity brewing around them. She chose vulnerability over defensiveness. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes shimmering with a mixture of fear and unquenchable ambition. "I crave independence, Mom. It's not just about the city, it's about my identity. I've been so focused on fitting into what everyone expected of me that I lost sight of what I truly want." Emily's heart tugged. She could see Sarah's authenticity shining through. A glimmer of the young woman she had raised but had seldom acknowledged during this chaotic transition from daughter to independent adult. How could she have missed it? The stakes felt mounting, calling forth a resolve within Emily that had lain dormant for too long. What if her rigidity was suffocating not only Sarah's dreams, but her own potential? In this moment of revelation, a sliver of her own forgotten ambitions resurfaced the urge to explore, to venture beyond the familiar confines of expectation. "Then let us talk about this," Emily said, her voice laced with newfound authority. "What would it take for you to feel supported in your decision? How can I help?" In that instant, an unexpected shift occurred not only in her standing within the family, but also in her understanding of herself. The power of open dialogue began to fracture the wall she had built against change. Bridging the gap required both trust and the vulnerability to welcome uncertainty. The onlookers, once hushed in anticipation, seemed to ignite with murmurs amongst them. They sensed a crumbling of the narrative they were so eager to judge, an unyielding act of maternal bravery. Emily acknowledged this, the blossoming risk of allowing her kids to carve their own paths. Jake, still caught within the whirlpool of emotions, interjected, "But what if this leads to a path that we're not prepared for? What if you're making a mistake by encouraging her? Or what if I'm allowing her to unfurl her wings rather than clipping them?" Emily countered, standing her ground. "Jacob, every generation faces this crossroads. It's a leap of faith we all must take, one that shapes who we become." She sensed a subtle shift within Jake. The rigid lines of his earlier apprehension began to soften. Perhaps her willingness to embrace this change might inspire him to reassess his own fears of losing the family identity he cherished. As Emily turned her attention back to Sarah, she saw the flicker of gratitude spark within her daughter's eyes. "I'm scared too, Sarah. But I regret letting fear govern my decisions for so long," Emily admitted, the vulnerability raw and resonant. A moment of understanding seemed to circulate through the air, blending their fears, hopes, and desires into a tentative, yet blossoming bond. Perhaps in this defined struggle, they could explore a new framework for their family, one built not upon fear but on mutual respect and understanding. But just as the small glimmer of hope illuminated the fractures in their family, a flicker of doubt crept in. What if this acceptance sent out ripples of resentment among those who thrived on tradition? With that lingering thought, yet another unpredictable storm loomed on the horizon, a confrontation that threatened to reveal deeper fissures. Would they truly navigate this new world together, or would unforeseen tempests tear them apart? Emily felt the weight of the present moment shift. The tension that sizzled around them had morphed into something altogether different, an electric charge, ripe with possibilities but underscored by the uncomfortable truth that she was still not entirely comfortable with change. Awareness washed over her. This was her chance for inner transformation, for self-discovery. Even as Sarah's face brightened with hope, Emily sensed an undercurrent of fear burrowing deeper inside her. An unsettling realization emerged. She had spent so much time defining herself through her children and their expectations that she had overlooked her own narrative. What did she want? What unfulfilled dreams whispered in the recesses of her heart? As if echoing her thoughts, Sarah's plea for independence created a mirror reflecting Emily's own stifled aspirations. "Let us figure this out together," she said, her voice steadier now. "I want both of us to feel empowered. You have the right to choose who you want to be." Jake's bewildered expression evolved as he saw a different side of his mother, one that didn't just hold on with a vice grip, but instead embraced the evolution of her children. "This is different for us," he murmured, half to himself. "Are you really okay with letting her go?" "Not entirely," Emily confessed, feeling the honesty weigh heavily on her tongue. "But I need to learn to be okay with the unknown. Clinging to control has only churned up conflict. Maybe instead of fearing what I can't predict, I should celebrate what my children can learn without me." In that moment, she realized her commitment to change was as crucial as Sarah's pursuit of independence. However, an unsettling thought punctured her resolve. Would she be strong enough to maintain this transformation in the face of a family still wedded to tradition? Sarah, sensing the shift, stepped closer. "Mom, it's about more than just me. You deserve to explore too. What do you want to do?" The sincerity behind her daughter's words offered Emily the gentle push she needed to confront her own hesitations. Visions of trapped opportunities lined her mind, travel plans she had abandoned, hobbies that never made it past the initial spark of interest, friendships that fell to the wayside. "I used to love painting, you know? It always felt so freeing. Perhaps I could try that again." As the words left her lips, A wave of emotional release surged. It was spoken truth at last. The idea of vulnerability in pursuing her own passions felt both terrifying and exhilarating. It was the first stroke of color on a canvas that had long been muted. Jake observed silently, a myriad of thoughts scrolling through his mind. Emily could sense his internal struggle, his protective instincts grappling with the shifting narratives. Facing this new family fabric might very well compel them to re-examine the rules of their own lives, the roles they played for years. Maybe we can set some boundaries, he suggested, cautiously optimistic. To support one another while navigating this shift? Yes. The enthusiasm bubbled up within Emily as clarity sparked. Mutual support. Let us create room for our uncertainties and commitments without judgment. As they began sketching this new familial outline, the profound realization struck Emily. Forging a new path would take practice and grit, but every struggle would lead to growth even amidst chaos. She wasn't simply supporting Sarah. She was igniting her own journey, a shift from mere acceptance toward radical acceptance of the complexities of their relationships. But as waves of enthusiasm crashed within her, Emily couldn't shake another lurking apprehension. Not everyone would accept this new dynamic without question. What would happen when they faced the disapproving stares of family members who thrived on commitment to tradition? Would they stand firm together? Or would familial bonds begin to fray? Against the backdrop of possibilities and anxieties, the next challenge loomed just over the horizon. Would they find strength in unity, or would divergent paths create rifts they couldn't mend? The moment of truth awaited, eclipsing their journey with uncertainty. Emily stood at the edge of their small suburban garden, the golden hour bathing it in a warm glow. It was quiet, almost too quiet for her racing thoughts. With Sarah and Jake inside, she could almost hear the whispers of her own doubts echoing against the freshly painted fence, a color she had chosen on a whim, reflecting her newfound commitment to change. But the unease continued to gnaw at her. The shadows of familial expectations loomed like storm clouds. Would her own mother's disapproval, palpable and fierce, snuff out her flickering desire for independence? Memories of stifling family gatherings, where tradition held a chokehold on her identity, battered her resolve. Could she truly break away from a past that defined her for so long? With reluctant determination, she picked up her phone and opened the art supply store app she had downloaded weeks ago, but couldn't bring herself to use. A vibrant selection of paints caught her eye, igniting a spark of inspiration she had long buried beneath obligations. It was a small step, yet it trembled in front of her like a yawning chasm. What if she bought the supplies and failed to rekindle that creative thrill? What if she succeeded and it demanded more time, more commitment, potentially creating rifts with her family? Shaking those thoughts aside, she took a deep breath, channeling the encouragement Sarah had given her earlier. Maybe that spark she felt was a call to arms, an awakening she could pursue alongside her daughter's progression. But how would her family interpret this? Would they see it as an affront to their deeply rooted traditions? Her heart tangled with conflicting emotions. The idea felt as thrilling as it was terrifying. "Mom." Jake's voice broke through her reverie. He emerged from the house, a slight frown marring his handsome features. "Are you okay?" "I'm starting to think," Emily replied, trying to muster an air of confidence. "I'm thinking about painting again." He raised his eyebrows. "Really? You mean it this time?" "Yeah, but it's more than just painting," she admitted, grappling with the weight of the truth hanging on her tongue. "It's about exploring who I am outside of being just your mom." Jake looked thoughtful, massaging his jaw as if deliberating whether to speak. "I get that, but will everyone understand?" There it was, the crux of her anxiety. Family loyalties could bend, but they often broke under pressures of change. "That's what I'm afraid of, but it's my turn to try." A silence settled between them, heavy with the realization that change rippled outward. What if her passion transformed into a fire, casting shadows on the carefully crafted family dynamics? Would they still be able to come together during holidays if Emily became someone entirely new? "Maybe you should just do it, Mom. You can't control how everyone reacts, but you can control what you want," he offered, a flicker of encouragement dancing in his gaze. With a tentative smile, she collected the remnants of her resolve. "You're right. I can start small, maybe create something for the house. But this newfound clarity was shattered as a chilling thought slithered through her. Would self-exploration cause fractures with her family? Emily knew this newfound liberation could open the floodgates of long-simmering conflicts. As she pondered her next steps, she felt shadows deepening around her. Sarah's budding independence, Jake's protective instincts, and her mother's suffocating expectations all swirled into an inescapable vortex of uncertainty. "Let us take the plunge together," Jake suddenly suggested, his voice stronger. "We can change, this family can change. We have to make it work." His words stirred something deep in her, igniting unmovable determination. They had to navigate these choppy waters, perhaps together. But as Emily stood there, staring at the wilting flowers, a lurking dread intensified. What if the journey ahead turned into a tempest of anger and resistance? Could she still find her voice amidst the cacophony of familial expectations? The air around her thickened with tension, and as dusk settled over the horizon, the reality of her choices plummeted upon her. A reckoning was imminent. Did Emily have what it took to not only survive the gathering storm, but also to emerge victorious? Stripped of illusions but galvanized by fire, she now had to confront the raw possibility of betrayal. The very idea that family, in all its chaotic beauty, could also become an obstacle. The moment felt electric, charged with the understanding that change never came without a price. What would she accept, and what would her family sacrifice? There was no turning back. All that remained was the daunting task of weaving her new narrative into the fabric of their lives. Would they embrace her journey, or would this catalyst for change launch them into a conflict they couldn't endure? The answer lingered just within reach, elusive and imminent. As night fell over the garden, Emily moved inside, feeling the weight of expectations pressing down on her chest. The living room was strewn with remnants from dinner, remnants that seemed to echo the chaos in her mind. Jake's words had ignited a flicker of hope, but reality quickly clouded it once more. Would a brush, dipped in vibrant colors, really change the contours of her life? Or was she simply setting herself up for another round of disappointment? She placed her hands on the dining table, running her fingers over the scuffed wood. Its history telling a story of family dinners, laughter and subtle grievances. A wave of nostalgia washed over her, mixed with resentment. How many times had she conformed to role-play her duties until they collapsed around her? Emily's heart raced as she pondered her future. If she began painting, would it be her truth on the canvas or merely another way to mask her fears? She had been a mosaic of others' expectations for so long. A daughter, a wife, a mother. But here she stood, yearning to become a creator of her own narrative. The allure of vibrant paints called to her, making her pulse quicken. Her thumb hovered over the buy button in the app, a decision waiting to shift her reality. What would she paint? Would it capture her struggles, her doubts, her tentative first steps towards independence? Or would it reflect the pain of ceaseless inner conflict, each stroke a battle against her family's hold? With a shaky inhale, she placed her order. The confirmation felt electrifying, yet a sense of dread settled in. What if the supplies arrived, and inspiration flickered and died? What if she hesitated at the easel, paralyzed by her fear and guilt? Would she be considered selfish for embarking on this path? The thought forced her heart into a tighter knot. The hour deepened as she retreated to her bedroom, hoping to find comfort in the familiar. Yet she was drawn to her reflection in the mirror, searching for the woman she had buried under the weight of familial roles. As she stared, resentment mingled with defiance. This woman, stripped of her assumed titles, looked back at her, eyes wide with yearning and unmistakable uncertainty. Could she forgive herself for wanting more? For seeking out a life ripe with personal fulfillment? Her phone buzzed, pulling her from the introspection. It was a message from Sarah asking to know more about her painting plans. The question sent a wave of warmth through her, a shared connection that hinted at new beginnings. Here was a chance to nurture not just her creativity, but also Sarah's burgeoning independence. She needed to involve her daughter in this journey, to manifest an encouraging environment where art flourished alongside changed perspectives. But as she pondered Sarah's message, a chilling thought crept in. What if this new venture put a strain between her and Sarah? Would her daughter feel overshadowed by her pursuit, anxious that she might not measure up? Emily's mind raced at the prospect of confusion. the fear of familial discord escalating. Deciding it was time to confront these fears head-on, she crafted a response. "I'm excited too, Sarah. I'm thinking we can paint together, and I want you to show me your ideas too." Sent. Yet a pit of worry lodged itself deep within her. How would Sarah react to her mother stepping into a role previously reserved for her? Would it inspire collaboration, or spark jealousy? The dinner table banters from earlier felt subdued now, shrouded with layers of unspoken concern. With every decision, the stakes heightened. Would she succeed in creating a nurturing space for Sarah while reclaiming herself? Or would this venture crumble under the weight of familial obligations? The softness of the evening light faded as shadows danced on the walls. A storm brewed alongside the torrid thoughts in her mind. What would it truly mean to embrace this change, and at what cost? And then the quiet tension folded in upon itself, whispering an unsettling question. Would the next brush stroke deepen the divides or create an unexpected masterpiece of connections? As morning light seeped in through the curtains, Emily stirred, her heart racing at the dawn of a new day. The weight of yesterday fell away only to be replaced with a tingle of anticipation. Today's delivery of art supplies felt like the first step into uncharted territory. A territory where she could finally explore the depths of her own voice. She stepped into the kitchen and poured herself a cup of coffee, the aroma curling around her like a warm embrace. Chipping away at her anxiety, she began to focus on the excitement of the colors that awaited her. Swirls of blue, sun-kissed yellows, and fiery reds. What would they look like on canvas? Would the act of creation propel her into a new existence? As she sat at the table, fingers drumming against the wood, she thought about the implications of involving Sarah in her artistic journey. The possibility of sharing a canvas, both literal and metaphorical, was a chance to bridge the gap that had widened as the weight of familial roles pressed upon her. But the fear of eclipsing her daughter's aspirations loomed large. Her phone buzzed on the table, a reminder of the digital bridge connecting her to the outside world. And another message from Sarah lit up the screen. "Can we start painting today? I have so many ideas." With a welling of resolve, Emily typed back, "Absolutely. Let us make it a special project." The moment she hit send, clarity flooded through her like a surge of adrenaline. This was more than just painting. It was a communion of creativity and a shared goal. The prospect of collaborative canvases shifted her fears into a frail whisper, almost insignificant against the backdrop of potential connection. But shadows loomed. A seductive whisper of self-doubt beckoned. What if her enthusiasm overshadowed Sarah's creativity? How could she ensure her daughter felt valued instead of trapped beneath the weight of her ambitions? The stairwell of doubt coiled tighter around her. As the morning wore on, reflections swirled in her mind. She envisioned that first brushstroke of self-expression, an outward manifestation of her inner journey, the process of reclaiming her identity. Each choice she made now, in a space filled with paints and dreams, would either fuel their relationship or cause fissures that could never be mended. The doorbell abruptly sliced through her thoughts, bringing her back to reality. Running to the door, her heart pounded not out of fear, but with eager anticipation. The delivery had arrived. Boxes of colors waited just beyond the threshold. As she unwrapped the packages, each item pulled her deeper into anticipation. The vibrant shades glinted in the light, and she felt a rush of empowerment. Within those tubes lay the potential to translate emotions into art. Each stroke could tell a story not just of herself but of her relationship with Sarah. Later that day, when they were finally seated before blank canvases, an unexpected tension clung to the air. The silence between them felt heavy, almost electric, as both women stared at their respective tools. What would emerge from this sacred space of creation? Emily felt a gnawing dread of inadequacy creeping in, despite her earlier resolve. She could sense Sarah shivering on the precipice of self-expression, and with a deep breath she whispered, "Let us start by sharing our thoughts. What do we want to paint?" This question hung in the air, heavy with possibility. It contained the urgency of revealing their hopes and fears, a confrontation waiting to unfold. In that moment, just as Sarah began to open up, Emily realized that today would be a reckoning. Not just for her daughter, but for herself as well. What truths would emerge from their hearts? Would their shared canvas become a true reflection of their bond, Or would it expose the cracks that had formed over the years? As the paintbrush trembled between her fingers, Emily felt the weight of transformation bear down on her again. The notion of her daughter matching strokes with her, their dialogues merging into artistic expressions, proved exhilarating and terrifying all at once. And as the first stroke hit the canvas, an unsettling thought crept in. Would unveiling the layers of their souls bring them together, or irrevocably unravel what was left unspoken? As Emily's brush glided across the canvas, the colors merged into a vibrant blur that mirrored her internal chaos. The uncertainty pulsed through her like a drumbeat, amplifying every shift in the room: the clattering of paint tubes, the soft exhale of Sarah as she wrestled with her own brush. Each moment dripped with potential. So many questions hung suspended. What would they create? Could this partnership fulfill their unspoken needs? "I think I want to paint how we feel," Sarah stammered, her voice a fragile thread in the thick air. It was a simple request, yet it ricocheted violently against Emily's crumbling confidence. What if her interpretation of feelings overshadowed her daughter's intent? What if a sharp pang of apprehension struck her heart? What if Sarah felt inadequate compared to her mother's experience? Taking a breath, Emily responded, "Good idea. But let's brainstorm together first." She could sense Sarah's trepidation, like a flickering flame on the cusp of being snuffed out. In her mind, she dared not lead with her own fiery passion. Instead, she chose to navigate slowly into this shared endeavor. "Do you want to start with colors? What colors do you feel represent you right now?" As Sarah considered the question, her fingers danced between a few paint tubes. The wait felt interminable, an echo of silence that only heightened the tension. Emily's mind raced ahead. How could she reconcile her fear of overshadowing her daughter with the undeniable urge to express herself? Finally, Sarah responded, "I think blue, like a calm sea. And maybe yellow? Because sometimes I feel bright and happy." Her words seemed to pour out, raw and honest, and Emily was struck by the revelation of her daughter's insights. "Those colors sound wonderful," Emily enthused, excitement bubbling forth. "I was thinking of deep reds, actually, but maybe we can blend them. That way, we can create something together, a reflection of both our feelings." The revelation of joint creation ignited something in Emily. It unveiled the latent courage to reveal her colors alongside Sarah's, merging their identities in this artistic venture. As they began to layer strokes, both women hesitated, hesitance weaving doubt into their actions. Each dip of the brush into paint carried the weight of their unspoken fears. As they painted, Emily's thoughts swirled in a cyclone of introspection. Each wave of color resonated with her memories of motherhood, the joy of beaming pride, the struggles of feeling eclipsed. She could feel echoes of past conversations, their shared laughter, the moments when she didn't quite understand Sarah's youthful passions, and the all-too-familiar nagging feeling that she failed to fully embrace her daughter's evolving identity. "Mom," Sarah broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you think it's okay if what I feel sometimes is different from what you feel?" The question arrested Emily, grasping her heart tightly as if to siphon the realization of generational conflict. For Sarah to voice her own feelings amidst the canvas was a revelation. Emily had feared they were diverging paths, one that might grow distant, disjointed. But here was Sarah, asking for validation, seeking acknowledgement of her individuality. "That's actually the most important thing," Emily responded, her voice steady now. "You should feel free to express whatever you want. It's all part of who you are." Her response bore the quiet weight of newfound understanding, an opportunity to explore identities without competition. With every stroke, the canvas transformed, a melting pot of hues and emotions. But beneath the surface excitement of creation, shadows danced, questions lingered like specters. Would they remain true to their artistic partnership, or would the undercurrents of competition again fray their bond? In the tapestry of colors emerging before them, Emily sensed an underlying tension. It was a scale tipping, swerving between collaboration and conflict. The realization clawed at something deeper within her. She was determined to foster Sarah's independent voice, yet at what cost might it come to her own? As the first layers dried, Emily caught a glimpse of hope mingled with trepidation. Perhaps painting together could assuage some of her fears. Then, as the final stroke settled, an unsettling thought struck. Would revealing their secrets through art reveal the truth of who they were? Or would it simply deepen the chasm that needed to be bridged? Just then, Sarah turned, a mix of eagerness and trepidation transforming her gaze. Can we try something even more personal? A shift in the air, palpable and heavy, foreboded a deeper plunge into their collective vulnerability. What uncharted territory lay ahead, waiting for them to explore? Emily felt the weight of Sarah's question pressing against her chest, a palpable pressure that seemed to foreshadow an impending revelation. What could be more personal than what they had already begun to explore? The swirling colors of the canvas echoed the turbulence churning inside her. As she faced her daughter, the air thickened with a charged tension, and she braced herself for whatever was to come. "What do you mean?" Emily asked, trying to keep her voice steady, masking the quiver of concern trembling beneath. With an intensity Emily had never witnessed, Sarah took a deep, steadying breath. "I want to paint our fears." The things we're scared to say out loud. The room fell silent, the pause pregnant with possibility. Emily's heart raced as her own fears flickered to life, her fear of failure, of disappointing Sarah, of not being enough. What if this project unveiled thoughts and emotions they had tried to avoid? Fears? She murmured, cautiously peeling back the layers of vulnerability she had tucked away for so long. "Are you sure?" "I am. I know it's scary, but I think if we paint them, it'll help us face them together." A spark ignited in Sarah's eyes, a fierce determination that made Emily reconsider. Emily hesitated, searching for the right words. Could she expose her own worries, her deep-seated insecurities in front of Sarah? The implications sent a shudder through her. It was one thing to emerge from the shadow of doubt. It was another to step into the light so brightly. "I think that's brave," Emily finally said, her voice laced with cautious admiration. "But it's also really personal. It might stir up feelings we aren't ready to confront." "Isn't that the point?" Sarah countered, her gaze unwavering. "I want to understand us. I want to see you, Mom. This could be a way for both of us to shed the burdens we've been carrying." Emily's heart fluttered. Something in Sarah's words resonated with an echo of truth. This was not just about art. It was about unlocking a deeper understanding of each other. It struck her that every brushstroke could become a doorway to something new, a chance to evolve in tandem rather than apart. "What about you? What fears are you wanting to share?" she probed, genuine interest threading through her inquiry. "Sometimes I feel like I'll never be as good as you," Sarah admitted, her voice thick with vulnerability. "Like I'll always be living in your shadow." A shroud of oppressive emotion enveloped them, and Emily's heart sank. The fear Sarah spoke of was a mirror reflecting her own buried insecurities. She had struggled with the same haunting thoughts: fear of not being perfect, fear of not living up to expectations. Not just those placed upon her, but those she had internalized throughout her life. "I never meant to make you feel that way," Emily confessed, her voice soft yet resolute. "I want you to have your own voice. I worry that I've suffocated yours." Silence fell again, heavy but profound. With every admission, they peeled back layers of guardedness, unveiling raw truths that lay hidden beneath the surface. Their artistic undertaking morphed into something more than just paint and canvas. It became a concession toward interdependence, a shared commitment to vulnerability. As they prepared to channel their fears onto the canvas, Emily's mind wrestled with another stark realization. Unveiling these fears risked exposing a fissure she had long avoided. But amidst the storm of apprehension, determination began to emerge. Could this become a catalyst for growth, for mutual strength? With newfound resolve, Emily dipped her brush into deep shades of black and gray, anticipating the storm of emotions that would follow. The first stroke felt cathartic, a tangible release. Each line carved memories of self-doubt, disappointment, and confusion. "What about you, Sarah?" Emily asked, aware that their journey into vulnerability was far from complete. "I'll paint my fear of failure," she said, a fire igniting behind her eyes as she embraced the moment. The room buzzed with renewed creativity, but questions lingered like shadows. Would this vulnerable display draw them closer? Or might it untangle issues best left unexamined? Emily inhaled sharply, aware that the path ahead glimmered with the promise of discovery, yet threatened to unearth painful truths buried deep as they painted. Sarah's expression grew determined, her fierce strokes reflecting a blend of anxiety and courage. It was then that Emily realized that they were entwined in a delicate dance of exploration. The canvas would not simply reflect their fears. It could also be a portal to their freedom if only they were willing to brave their truths. "Let us see what unfolds," Emily whispered to herself, letting a wave of anticipation rise within. What awaited them on this bold journey? The room pulsed with the colors of their shared vulnerabilities, becoming a safe haven where Emily and Sarah dared to confront unseen fears. As the strokes of black and gray folded into the luminous hues of their emotions, Emily experienced a profound shift. She was not just a mother but a partner in this raw journey of self-discovery. Each brush movement was a testament to their pain yet transformed into a canvas richer with understanding. Sarah's expression flickered between joy and trepidation, mirroring Emily's own grapple with identity and self-worth. As Emily painted the sprawling clutches of fear, she recognized that this experience was reshaping her not just as a mother trying to maintain her family's tradition, but as an individual yearning to reclaim her autonomy and voice. "Mom, this is cathartic," Sarah exclaimed, her brow scrunching in concentration while swirling shades of bright yellow into the dark waves. It was a reminder that transformation was not solely born from pain. It also stemmed from deliberate choice. "Yes, it is," Emily responded fervently, realizing every emotion stirred up into the colors represented both their stories. They were shedding layers of this weighted history together in a way that honored the past, but boldly carved a new trajectory for the future. The kitchen, often a realm of routine, now brimmed with the fervor of creation, each stroke a dialogue, each color a promise of hope. Suddenly, a gentle knock at the door shattered their cocoon of art. Emily glanced at Sarah, uncertainty threading through her. "Do you want to see who it is?" she asked. But Sarah only nodded, her eyes glimmering as she resumed her brushwork, a saintly act of focus amidst distraction. Upon opening the door, Emily faced unexpected guests, her parents, standing with uncertainty aligned with duty. The subtle heat of anxiety flushed her face. Their visit threatened to introduce familiar dynamics, possibly stirring the very tides they had sought to redirect. "Emily, we were just in the neighborhood." Her mother's voice twinkled with forced cheer, but quickly faded at the telltale sight of paint scattered across the table. "Oh, what are you both working on?" Emily inhaled sharply, the confrontation of expectations weighing heavily on her. Would her parents' passage through the threshold crank the wheel of the burgeoning change within her? "Actually, we're painting together," Emily asserted, summoning the confidence she had cultivated. "Sarah and I are exploring our emotions through art, our fears, mostly." Her mother's brows furrowed, confusion seeping through the creases of her forehead. "Isn't that a bit frivolous? Why not focus on the wedding planning?" The remark pierced through Emily's newfound resolve. "No, Mom. This is important," Sarah blurted out before Emily could step in. "We're empowering each other, not clinging to what you want." The electric atmosphere crackled, the weight of Sarah's declaration crashing over the room. Emily's heart raced. Her role as a mother witnessed a blossoming moment of bravery in her daughter, one she admired without the weight of any traditional barriers. The lingering fear of judgment transformed into palpable support. "Isn't this supposed to be a happy day, together as a family?" her mother answered, defensive yet probing. "This is our form of celebration," Emily asserted, interjecting. "Change doesn't mean we have to abandon love. It means we get to redefine it together." Silence fell. Confusion washed over their visitors, a testament to ingrained expectations and hesitation. But Emily stood firm, relishing the strength bubbling within her, emitting warmth toward Sarah, who mirrored her stand. Slowly, her father's expression shifted, bemusement trembling into tentative understanding. "Maybe this is a good way for the two of you to navigate these feelings together," he said, finally breaking the initial tension with an open mind. "You can be yourselves in this space," he added, and it felt like an olive branch. "Thanks, Dad." Sarah's voice softened, clutching a brush resolutely in her hand. Emboldened, Emily turned back to the canvas, feeling extra layers of comfort between her and Sarah emerge. Vulnerability thrived amidst the shadows as they began painting this unexpected union, the inchoate shape of family now manifesting against their canvases before them. The whispers of conflict that had once threatened their bond receded into a dynamic every stroke painted. Small conversations of truth opened pathways for bigger dialogues, invisibly weaving connections. As colors continued to flow and take shape, she felt the narrative shift. The journey they were collectively embarking on marked not just shared fears but a collective vision of resilience. "Mom," Sarah called, holding her brush up triumphantly. "Let us paint our dreams next. Let us allow ourselves to elevate beyond fear." The shift of focus glimmered like a beacon of empowerment. "Yes, let us. Dreams are what we should nurture," Emily agreed, heralding newfound determination amidst the prior strains. As the canvases before them, their achievements brightened in reassurance. Echoes of their fears became soft reminders of a journey colliding with exhilarating potential. Each color symbolized a part of their identity's restructuring, vividly expressed through the world they were beginning to create. As they ventured further into the terrain of vulnerability, Emily recognized her own metamorphosis, though the stakes felt high. Her newfound voice rang out clearly and undeniably powerful. This was not just about painting. They were cultivating a new family narrative. That day marked a collective victory, a recognition that transformation could flourish alongside love, and that true connection transcended tradition when nurtured with understanding. In that shared moment, as laughter intertwined with creativity and contemplation danced between the two of them, Emily embraced the joy of creating anew, both on canvas and within their familial ties. It marked the beginning of an artistic journey, leading to opportunities that promised not division but connection. With long-held fear finally surrendered, she beamed at Sarah, witnessing the same spark igniting her daughter. In this act of defiance to tradition, resolute hearts embodied their own destinies together, forging ahead into a future that knew no limits. Now, it's time for you to join the movement of transforming lives through storytelling. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help it thrive. Seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about how you would embrace change in your own life. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to inspire others.